Broadcasting live on the GoPro Radio Network, and today's show is brought to you by some of the best storytellers on earth. I'm talking
That's
about
right.
VW Moving Images,
Hello.
the parents, the creators, the birthers of a really, really fantastic documentary DVD called Disappearing Voices, The Decline of Black Radio. Executive produced by myself. But the special thing about this documentary, in addition to it being the part sponsor of tonight's show, is the fact that if you say you heard about the documentary on This Is Iyanna Jones or on the BCS Experience,
Right.
you get an autographed
Oh,
copy.
stop.
Now, why do
Okay.
you want this in your library? Well, I'll tell you why you want this in your
Yes.
library.
Funny
You,
you should ask.
you, it's a really, really great history of the birth of black radio and
Yes.
how the jocks that invented radio, or at least the DJing that you know of, which is really the forerunner of today's hip hop, and we're going to be
Mhm.
talking
Mhm.
about hip hop with my lovely guest, who I will be introducing shortly. Um, those jocks really changed the face of
Yes.
DJing and therefore the fabric of America. So it's about once again an art form that black people really changed and put their indelible mark on. And it also talks about the ways in which black radio was systematically targeted in this country in
Still is.
particular, and still is,
Yes.
and was made poor by design.
And the
So
autograph is important as well.
the autograph is really great because you're going to get it signed by Tylon Xavier Washington, the director, who's also the visionary behind the GoPro Radio Network. So you take these disappearing voices, right, and you remedy that by coming up with something called the GoPro Radio Network, where we have these fantastic shows that broadcast on Wednesdays and Saturdays. We've got the BCS Experience.
Yes.
We've got Kay Thompson Live, who you just heard right before my show. Of course,
Yes.
this is Iyanna Jones. And then the
Yes.
Saturday lineup is fantastic with the new radio generation at 6 p.m. But before that, at 4 p.m., the Glenn Z
Glenn
show,
Z.
and then the Sexy Party
Oh,
show,
you
which is
ended with some well, sex.
and dating advice and relationship advice. But yeah, mainly
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah, yeah,
sex.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
They,
it's a fun time.
but they titillate. They're good at it.
Titillate is a strange
I know,
word,
I
but
know, I
it's a
know.
strange word.
But they're very good.
Anyway, I want to thank everybody for tuning in and reminding them that if they want to join the conversation, they should call me. I'll give you my phone number. I'm easy. Anybody can get my phone number, 646-595-3807, 646-595-3807. Now it's April, and
Yes.
Women's Month just passed, but I'm keeping it going.
All right.
As a black woman, I think it's important to do that. I'm keeping it going. I have a great guest coming up next week, and this week I have with me the lovely, and I have prepared this really fantastic introduction, which I'd like to read from. And then, of course, we're going to be hearing some clips from her music, some of the promotional pieces that have been done on her, because she's really just a fantastic person. And who am I talking about, ladies and gentlemen? The one and only Toni Blackman.
Yay!
We now those you guys remember a couple weeks ago we had her on, and then Blog Talk was just doing its thing. You know how it does. And so I've been anticipating tonight's interview for some time because there's nothing that I love more than a strong woman, except a strong black woman, and someone who really does the work in the street, and on the street, who pounds the pavement to be a positive example for our young women who are coming up. I can't tell you how that important is as a mother.
Mhm.
And I remember my experiences in junior high school coming up and not knowing who I wanted to be and what I was supposed to look like. And,
Mhm.
not having the benefit of someone like her at that time. So you're very valuable. And I'll tell folks why. She's the international champion of hip hop culture. She's known for the irresistible, contagious energy of her performances and for her alluring female presence. She's all heart, all rhythm, all song, all power. A one-woman revolution of poetry and microphone. That is so eloquent. And when you
D-
see her, she just embodies that, ladies and gentlemen. She's an award-winning artist, and her steadfast work and commitment to hip-hop led to the U.S. Department of State to select her work as the first ever hip-hop artist to work as an American cultural specialist. So this is government official and approved,
Amen.
but
Certified.
but still keeping it real,
That's right.
still keeping your heart and your mind on the pulse of the people.
Yes.
Now
Mhm.
throughout the program I'll be talking about some of the wonderful things you've done, but first let's let them hear your voice for a moment and just welcome you, Toni, to This Is
Oh, well,
Iyanna
thank you for
Jones.
having me. I'm excited to be here on the show.
Well, welcome
And I
indeed.
love what you guys are doing here with GoPro Radio Network. It's awesome.
It's a community thing. It's an institution.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we'll be talking with you about that more because
Mm-hmm.
you've been building quite a few institutions of your own.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you're a hip hop artist. You
Yes.
are a freestyle specialist.
Yes.
You're a writer.
Yes.
Um, you're an actor. I mean, and I just put that in there because I've seen some of your videos, and I think you have an amazing acumen when it comes to the stage. So
Yes.
I threw actor in there.
Yeah,
Um,
I've done some hip hop theater work, so you're right.
there you
Yes.
go.
Yes.
And and I want to talk with you about some of the projects that you're working on right now that are really, really close to your heart. We're going to be hearing some of your music throughout the program, and also we'll be showing the piece where you were featured on
Mm-hmm.
a Dove
Mm-hmm.
commercial, but not more than a commercial, a program
Yeah, the
that focused
campaign
on
did.
people,
Yeah.
the campaign for people being true to their own images
Mm-hmm.
and themselves. Talk a little bit about how you got involved in that. And
Well, someone nominated me from an organization to be considered, and they called me. And ironically, when they called me, I was in Oman, speaking at the Aspen Institute's World Summit on Creativity. And I was like, oh my God, Dove is called. Because when that first campaign came out, the real woman, the real
right,
bodies,
right,
and
Right.
I was like, I want to be in that campaign. So that was several years had passed, and then somehow it came into fruition. And it's funny how a lot of things happen in divine time, not our own time.
right,
And so I think there were about 150 women being interviewed, and they went after my interview. I was told, okay, you're shortlisted, and so I knew I reached the point in my development where what I do is unique, and you can't find like I intentionally made the choices I did, but has been somewhat painful.
right,
Not
right.
easy being pioneering in so many areas,
Of
but
course.
now I'm at the point where it's paying off because I know there's no competitor for what I do. So either they want what I do or they don't.
Right.
So I'm not worried about these other folks. It's just me. Like, do they like it? And that's how it ended up happening. Like they fell in love with the idea that there was a woman in hip hop who was using her voice to empower other women and girls. And that just stuck. And it was one of those things, regardless of whether or not you like the music or the culture, you know that there's some value in empowering girls and women with this as a tool.
Absolutely. You know, when I was reading about some of the work that you did, I likened it to that whole trend where when young women start to pass that age of, well, I mean, now it's probably much earlier with the advent of digital
Yeah.
technology and everybody being saturated by all these different images and
Mhm.
ideas of beauty.
Right.
Once you got out of like junior high or whatever, you stopped with the competitive sports. You
Mhm.
know, it turned more now to what you looked like and what you were wearing.
Yes.
And I think we kind of lost, you know, what was important about being competitive,
Yeah.
being aggressive, and you know
Yeah.
those attributes that are typically relegated to men
Mhm.
actually applying to women and applying to women in a positive light. So when was
Right.
it that you first realized that this work of empowering young women in hip hop, and then
Yeah.
also just in aspects outside of hip hop, when did you realize that that was important work that needed to be done, that nobody else was doing
Mhm.
it, and that
Mhm.
it was something for you to step in and do?
Well, first I wanted to mention, statistically in terms of research, they say the girls they start to become disempowered after age 9 or 10.
Wow.
So it's really important to hit them around 6, 7, 8, and 9 to be able to get them to stand up, rise up, know their power, to
Right.
be able to say, yes, I'm beautiful. Because at that point they start to question their looks because of the media and what's happening. And I think with hip hop music and culture, it's always been in me to do this. I wasn't clear that this is what I've always been doing until there was a guy, Michael Wanguhu, he's a Kenyan filmmaker, and he's done a bunch of documentaries on East African hip hop and progressive hip hop. And he was interviewing my cousin. And I was
Okay.
back home in the Bay Area, and
Mhm.
she started talking. And it was stuff I had gotten. And she told him, she's like, yeah, we were 9, 10 years old. Toni would like produce plays and we would charge a nickel for people to get in. And she would choreograph the dance routines and she would organize talent shows for the block. I don't remember doing all of those things, but she had a long list of those things. And then I went to a poetry reading. She hosts a poetry series back in my hometown. And there was a man on stage, a grown man,
Right.
and he was talking about Toni Blackman and how she was the first person that helped him pick up a pen. And
Wow.
that's when he started rhyming and he started writing poetry. And I was like, who is this man? And it turns out I've pictures from when he was 5 and I was in high school and I was running the leisure service, the Department of Rec
Right,
services.
right, right.
And so you play kickball all day and baseball all day and feed the kids, and then you play more kickball or baseball. The kids would get bored and I would get bored. So we started rapping. We started creating dance routines. And then we started having a weekly talent show.
Mm.
And so it made me realize like, yo, this is my destiny.
Right.
Like this is what I was called to do. And this is what I've continually done. And no matter what, I've come back to it.
Right.
And the girls and the women's part started to resonate the more and more I began to recognize that oppression for women was real. I lived in denial for a long time as an activist, as a woman who was raised in the church.
Mm.
There's a lot of lies that we are programmed to accept. And there are a lot of myths that we are tested. We're called to not challenge.
Right.
A lot of beliefs,
Right.
and the pain became too great for me to just not to go along with the program.
And the program, speaking of that program, it's pretty insidious.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
really everywhere.
Yeah.
And, I was reading, your story about your journey. I was perusing your website and, and even listening to the Dove campaign, there was,
Mhm.
some mention of your own issues that you had to contend with
Mhm. Mhm.
and eventually get over.
Right.
And, like, so I want you to talk a little bit about that with the audience because sometimes, getting over these issues or dealing with these demons is not so much conquering them as much as it is that you say, you know what, this is not a fight I'm supposed to even be fighting or paying attention
Mhm.
to right now. So why don't you talk a little bit about what was the impetus for your eventual emergence and in terms of your self-esteem and your power?
Well, I guess in terms of really acknowledging my self-esteem and power, there were goals that I had in terms of the programs I was trying to run and the things that I wanted to do. And in order to manifest them, I had to kind of get over myself. I had to confront my wounds and my fears. A lot of times what we do is as women, and I'm guilty of doing this recently, where we remove ourselves from the conversation because we don't want to ruffle feathers. We don't want to offend anybody. We don't want to. And then our excuse is, I'm over that. I'm beyond that. We don't want to
Right.
get stressed out when really we don't want to be bothered with the fight.
Right.
And so we find ourselves in this position. Either if you're going to stand up and speak up, or you're going to accept the status quo and continue to experience pain and frustration. And there's something very powerful about being in action that gives you a powerful lift even if the circumstances haven't changed yet.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so it started to feed my soul and bring me a joy. And then I started to see other girls and women reflect back to me, and I realized I had to be accountable for certain things that had not happened in my career.
Sure.
So there were opportunities that I sabotaged because I didn't feel worthy. There were opportunities that I sabotaged because I allowed some guy to intimidate me or to make me feel less than. And I would internalize it. And then comes the internalized depression where we girls and we women push each other down.
Mm-hmm.
And confronting that is really spiritual warfare when we have to sit down with our sisters and say, what was that? Why'd you do that? Why'd you say that? And actually
Right.
listen
Right.
and to allow people to process their tears and to process their pain, realizing it's not about you, it's not about me, not taking it personal. That was a lot of spiritual work.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
I can only imagine. Some of the other negative programming that's out there is, like for example, the denigration of feminism. And I'm not a
Mhm.
feminist.
Mhm.
That's not what I'm. For a number of reasons.
Mhm.
And we're dealing, mainly in terms of my statement just now with the semantics of it.
Mhm.
It's not that I'm against woman power but just all the other politics that come in and muddy things, and really, don't allow people to kind of get to the point where they're dealing with each other on a human level.
Mhm.
So I don't like to use the word feminism, but I think that even that gets sort of discouraged.
Mm.
Oh, you're talking that woman stuff. Oh,
Mhm. Mhm.
and what you said earlier really resonated with me because the oppression is real.
Right.
It's insidious and it's pervasive in any, many,
Yeah.
many movements.
Yes. Yes.
So-called movements for freedom and
Yes.
justice are
Yes.
some of the hotbeds of oppression of women. It's
Mhm.
disgusting, and I think that, I guess the question for me would be what has sort of, inspired you the most throughout this journey? What would you count as some of the, the shining moments in this journey to sort of empower people to find your own power? Um, and really to serve people and serve as an example of that kind of power for young women.
Well, I think for me, it's been those small moments of beauty when you see an artist recognize they've achieved something great. When you see an artist acknowledge that they were able to, quote, get open and rock the crowd. When I see a community, I ran a project called Freestyle Union Cypher Workshop in DC.
Yes.
And I just remember those moments where I could see young artists coming to the realization that the children were impressionable and that they did not have to be Jay-Z in order to be an influencer. And for to see a young rapper go through that process of recognizing, wait, I'm that powerful that I walk into a room of 500 10-year-olds and they're screaming my name after 20 minutes. Like, it's almost like they don't get it. Like, yo, yes, you're talented. You have a great voice.
Right.
You have charisma.
Right.
You don't need to be famous to rock a crowd. You just need to be good.
And
And you need to have the capacity to channel the energy and channel like what it is that's inside of you, which a lot of superstars don't know how to do.
right.
Mm.
People
It's true.
forget that this
Extremely
this
true.
this whole hip hop thing,
Hmm.
it was birthed out of communities that have been
Yes.
oppressed. It was a
Yes.
voice that, quite frankly, black people invented
Yes.
to cry out against, the system, against the oppression, against the injustice. We're going to take a quick break on This is Iyanna Jones. And when we come back, Tony is going to show us how to rhyme like a girl. You're tuned into This is Iyanna Jones on the GoPro Radio Network, and we will be right back.
Oh yeah.
Brothers and sisters, stay away from trouble. Toni Blackman. Brothers and sisters, stay away far from trouble. Cause trouble will find you wherever you are. You got to see inside of you and know that there's a shining star. Yeah. Stay cool, Joe Black.
Brothers and sisters, stay far from trouble. Brothers and sisters, stay far from trouble. I know you know, they know we know. Life is not easy. I know you know, they know we know. Life is not easy. Rude boy, police come for you. Rude boy, police come for you. You wanna run, they run faster you. You wanna hide, they will find you. You wanna shot, you wanna shot, you wanna shot, you wanna shot. They shoot better than you. They will lay you down. Stay far from trouble.
Life without trouble, yeah, we can't find it. Keep your eyes open, don't get blinded. See, we right here, trouble's over there. Many will declare, life's not fair.
All right, keep your eyes open, don't be blinded, and make sure you're listening.
I
All
is.
right, you're tuned into This is Iyanna Jones on the GoPro Radio Network. I'm going to tell you the history of that thing in just a minute, Tony. I just want to remind folks that they can call into 646-595-3807, and apparently somebody has been following my advice because we do have a caller live on the air. Let's bring them on. You're on This is Iyanna Jones. Who's calling?
How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm fine. My name is Iyanna Jones. Hello, Tony.
Hi there.
Yes. I'm so happy I saw your comment on Facebook. That's why I'm here
All
to support
right.
you.
All right.
But, I'm doing a concert on Saturday in Brooklyn, and Tony's going to be on it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes.
All right.
Yes.
Well,
We had a rehearsal the last week, and she, fired up the whole room.
I'm sure.
And,
So you
you
just
know,
called
she's
for
on,
Tony. You didn't want to talk to me. You just wanted to talk to Tony. That's fine.
No, I'll talk to you.
But Ayana, this is the highly acclaimed pianist and musician Onaje Allen Gums,
Wow.
who's
Yeah.
calling into the This Is Ayana Jones show.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
And
I was
we've
just
worked together as well. He did the concert with Julian Myers, who,
Yes.
and you remember we went out and had dinner afterwards from the
Oh
church.
yeah. Oh
Right.
yeah.
Oh, snap. So this
How
is
you
like
doing?
family
This is
calling
family,
in.
right?
Okay. Well,
Yes.
I really appreciate your call. So what's the scope of the performance on
That's
Saturday?
it. Bam. It's it.
Well,
Yeah.
it's called New Vintage, and it's about really, tearing down the walls that the industry has put up for the music and the art.
Absolutely.
And I have some incredible musicians and also seven poets, rap lyricists, as Tony so eloquently corrected me with.
Call
And
me a rapper.
the youngest poet will be 16, going up to the legendary Mr. Abiodun Oyewole,
All
the rap
right.
poet.
Avi O'Doon, who's been on a number of my records, and he's been
Yes.
sitting here right in this studio.
Yes.
We're all one big family. I think all of these independent artists and independent spirits. We all kind of like connect in all these different ways. What are you like twice or three times removed from somebody in some
Mhm.
instances?
Mhm.
It's really
Exactly.
great. Well, I appreciate you calling in. We're gonna continue the conversation with Tony because one of the things that piqued my interest is I want to know why you don't want to be called a rapper.
Okay.
And so let's talk about that because there are a lot of hip hop artists who will say that, and who or some people who embrace the term. What's the difference for you?
What's funny, one of the artists I work with in Rhyme Like a Girl goes by the name of At Last, and she has a song called I Ain't No Rapper. And that's just the chorus. I ain't no rapper. And I thought about it and I was like, she's so right. I hate the term. And because
Why?
the term has come to represent the over commodification, the excessive commercialization and exploitation of the oral tradition that I've worked very hard to be a part of. I've nurtured my talents, my gifts, my passion. I grew up listening to Abi Odun and the whole Last Poets crew, and to Gil Scott-Heron, and to recordings of Nikki Giovanni, and even recordings of Martin Luther King, and my grandpa's records with Oscar Brown Jr. I didn't know
Hmm.
who he was, but I knew
You
those
knew of
records.
yes.
And it was something about the spoken word and the tradition. So it's no accident that I rhyme. Like, this is not a coincidence. And so when you have individuals who don't respect the craft, they don't respect the art form, and they say silly things like, it's about the money. And that as if that's all it's about. Or as long as it sells, it doesn't matter. Or it's just all kinds of excuses.
Right.
I don't want to be a part of that.
Right.
And so I asked him to refer to us as rap lyricists or as MCs so that we can
Nice.
distinguish and discern. And there's a lot of young people who get that. When I talk to them, I do workshops with young people in all different kinds of areas, whether it's juvenile detention centers, teen pregnancy programs, high schools in rural areas, in different parts of the country and the world. And they all get it when you break it down like that. They know the distinction. It's just
Right.
that the mass media, mainstream media leads us to believe that the youth don't know. The youth know.
Well, it's funny because I don't know who the artist of this song is. Um, but the refrain is, before this rap shit.
Hmm.
And it's interesting because in the whole song, he talks about how it's been commodified. It's all about, who has the biggest car, who has this, that, and
Hmm.
the other. And so really that whole rap game, or even how they kind of refer to it, this
Hmm.
game of, getting that money, doing whatever you got to do. I can kind of see that.
Yeah.
Because typically it's like, okay, so now someone's about to argue some distinction that's based on semantics. It's like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean when I say rapper.
Yeah.
But I think you're absolutely right. And I think
Hmm.
it's important because when people outside of our communities talk
Yeah.
about rappers,
Yeah.
they never use the word MC.
Hmm.
They never use the word lyricist. They don't
Yeah.
understand the nuances of the culture at all, or the
Right.
fact that it's many faceted.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
when they say rapper, they don't just mean rapper. They
Right.
probably mean black. They mean
Yes.
thug.
Yes.
They
Yes.
mean
Yes. Yes.
undesirable.
Yes.
And so this has become the mainstream
Hmm.
terminology for
Hmm.
something that is really a lot more complex than,
Hmm.
people would give it credit
Well,
for.
even it's a lot of consumers. If you look at the current debates around like this Rick Ross issue and you read comments on the blogs, right? There are a number of people who think they're hip hop heads, who think they know
Right.
something about the music, and they're passionately, assertively making statements that make no sense because it's their statements are not rooted from being informed about the music or the culture.
Right.
And so they say these things and they make these generalizations that are so off base. Like I would comment if it was a panel discussion, but being that it's a message board online,
Yeah.
it's too much energy.
Yeah, we will make sure that, and I'm just saying this because I enjoy doing it. We will make fun. Excuse me. We will make time during this broadcast to make fun of Rick Ross because I mean he needs to be clowned. So interestingly enough, when we talk about like how people see hip hop here, how people see being an MC, being a lyricist here,
Yeah.
you've traveled around the world.
Hmm.
So is hip hop treated differently in other countries? Are
Hmm.
you finding some common strain, especially because you talk about call and response, which is very African
Hmm.
um, um, tradition? Um, how is the hip hop treated there? How is the lyricism and the writing treated there?
Well, I think there are different places and spaces around the world where you have the influence of American mainstream music, which dominates. But then there are a lot of places where particularly in Africa, where African artists are able to really inject their traditional music
Right.
and the music of their culture and their country, and then to create their own versions of hip hop. And I find that to be the best hip hop because
Yeah.
it's the most soulful and it's the most resonant in terms of you being able to feel it in the heart. Like today I saw a video of some artist friends of mine from a group called Gopi System from Senegal, and I met them in 2001, my first trip there, and they created a tribute for their moms, and like two of the mothers had passed away, one around the time they were releasing the video,
Oh.
which was very deep and profound, but it's a beautiful hip hop tribute to mothers.
Hmm.
And so you see the distinction. The last mama song I remember was Tupac's Dear
Right.
Mama.
Right.
And how many years ago was that? And so then you also see there's a certain kind of political activism and socio-political awareness that occurs within different communities. So you will in each of these places have the more commercial artists who are in the videos by cars and with girls and on the
Ugh.
beach. So no matter what language, you will find them.
Ugh.
But then you tend to find much more content and storytelling as well to balance it out. So there's a different balance. And there are also different definitions of success. There are a lot of places they don't have a quote music industry in the
Hmm.
same way that we do. So the pressure is different. And although
Right.
they would desire to have that industry so that they could sustain themselves more effectively, sometimes there's like a blessing within not having access to that because you have more authenticity in the music and more integrity in the lyrics.
And it forces excellence,
Yeah, and
I
Abiel
think.
Dune was in Senegal not too long ago, maybe a few months, December, I think he was there. And he met a lot of folks that I knew, and he was just in shock that all these people, we knew each other. And he did a big concert, and there's an artist by the name of Bidu Babes who are here in the States for a while. And there were some younger artists on stage, and they started with the MF and the N word.
Mm.
And he got up like the elder and gave them fools of speech where it was like hush over the crowd, stadium full of people. And Abiel Dune said, don't you ever. And broke it down and like, wouldn't it be nice if that could occur here at Madison Square Garden
Oh my
in
God.
the midst of a Jay-Z show where Abiel Dune comes out
Oh my God.
and like, hush goes the crowd and listen, you know what I mean?
And you know what the
Yeah,
secret to that is too? Because, and not that I'm trying to give people shine. So you had just mentioned
yeah,
this person, so we're not
yeah.
going to say the name because we don't want to make it about them. But,
Hmm.
they were doing an interview and there was this whole technique being employed where, the famous interviewer is asking questions and they're like, well, hmm well, like this sort of like, I'm going to be mysterious so that you think I'm
Yes,
some kind of genius.
yes,
I'm like, this dude is like the least eloquent person I've
yes.
ever met. If you listen to, a hint is that they actually took this person's lyrics and put it together in a book and presented it to them. I'm like, like this is like, what are you supposed to be the griot of our age? Like, your stuff has
Right,
been put into a book to say like,
right,
here, this is the profound impact that you've had on the world. It
right,
disgusts me.
right.
Meanwhile, you're thousands of miles away, in a place that's so culturally rich. People here probably, many people here will probably never experience, any of
Right.
the aspects of that culture.
Mhm.
You're making history right now as we
Mhm.
speak.
Mhm.
And, they're comparing this guy's contributions to the world
Exactly.
as historical. It drives me up a wall. I'm sorry. It really does.
Well, longevity will have its place with respect to the art.
Mm.
It will come, it will go. That which sustains will be created and called art.
Mm.
That's what I think that we should be trying to do. You never know what's going to make its way into the cultural storehouse of
Mhm.
Mhm.
of humankind, right? What's
Mhm.
going to endure? You don't know. But
Mhm.
one of the ways that you can kind of ensure that, and you can, let me know if you agree with this, is to just be excellent.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the excellent it's not just in the technique.
No.
It's also in the content.
Yeah.
It's also
We've unfortunately, with respect to art, have allowed mediocrity to be considered as classical art form,
Mhm.
and it really isn't. There
Mhm.
is a tendency now to allow that to dictate the market, which is it's flashpoint. But
Yes.
once again, it comes back to will it sustain?
Yeah, no, it's very easy to get lazy. Like I've had to take myself off stage for a while just to get back into the craft and to work with a coach and to get with MCs who are as strong as me or better to really rebuild my skills and to sit in with musicians who challenge me when I'm freestyling and to allow myself, I've made some mistakes on stage publicly, things that someone who's quote seasoned shouldn't be doing per se. And then me realizing, okay, if I'm going to do this as a teacher, as a master teacher,
right.
that mastery, it means excellence on a consistent basis. And so I have to model for those who I'm working with in coaching. And I'm telling you, that's one of the best motivators. When you can go into a classroom and you can create in the moment from the heart and have content that is pertinent and relevant and be clever and have poetic techniques and devices
Yes.
working, you got them eating out of the palm of your hand.
Yep.
And it becomes so simple then. But staying on top of that requires working out. It requires lyrical fitness and being performance ready. And
Right.
It's like
yeah,
playing jazz. You just don't play jazz. You have
right.
to have a construct of
Yes.
understanding syncopation. You have to understand
Mm-hmm.
where things integrate each other so that
Mm-hmm.
even in a dissonant sound, it's still making music.
Right.
And that's jazz. It's very hard to play.
Well, I love when people mention jazz in conjunction, with hip hop because, I think that, real hip hop is today's jazz.
Mhm.
It's the voice of the people.
Mm-hmm.
It's it has so many, ways in which you can be creative and just sort of deconstruct it and reconstruct it into your own, image.
Mm-hmm.
With all of just, wonderful MCs that we've seen coming out. One of the reasons that I'm hoping that you will freestyle for
Oh
us
yeah,
at
yeah,
some
yeah,
point in the
yeah,
program. Yay! So,
yeah.
but speaking of the freestyling, I'll tell you what I'm really excited about as a woman.
Yeah.
Um, Now, disclaimer, I know it's ignorant, okay? I'm saying that now. I know it's ignorant, okay? But I did not know that there were female battle rappers. I think up till like maybe like 8 months ago.
Oh
I
really?
had no idea that that was a thing. I
Oh
knew
yeah.
there were like battle raps and I knew, and it's rife with ignorance. It really, the gunplay and all that.
Yeah, yeah.
It is ridiculous.
Yes.
But I had no idea that there was like a women's segment. So when I got turned on to some of these videos and
Mhm.
stuff like that, I was
Mhm.
blown away.
Mhm.
Was the subject matter negligible? Absolutely.
Right.
Did I cringe? Of course.
Yeah.
It is more like a guilty pleasure. But,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not a person that, throws out the baby with the bathwater and says,
Mhm.
oh, I
Mhm.
mean, it's clearly
Mhm.
ignorant. I wouldn't get on a stage and say, 99% of that stuff that's being
Right.
said. But I could still recognize the genius, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
of my people. And so I got the same feeling that I got when I saw the documentary Rise.
Yeah.
Now, but you had people coming from all different kinds of experiences. So we're
Mhm.
not saying everybody featured in that documentary was a saint.
Mhm.
Okay, but the visceralness of
Mhm.
the dance
Yeah.
as a means of self-expression.
Right.
And so then you see these women, and I mean, it's just like this amazing ability to freestyle. I mean, some of it's
Mhm.
written, I'm
Mhm.
sure. Some of it may be written by their coaches. I don't know. But just the
Right.
spectacle of it, how they turn it into this sort of boxing thing. And
Yeah.
then you have people tag teaming and,
Mhm. Mhm.
people have their own styles. Everybody has an image, and it's this real underground thing that's not.
Yeah.
I guess one of the things I really loved about it was the fact that it really isn't, embraced by the mainstream. That women are being so aggressive.
Yeah.
I mean, so aggressive,
Yeah,
even
they
if
are.
it's
Yeah.
verbally, like just coming out and
Yeah.
doing that,
Yeah.
and it's like, what would that be like if we could have that where it was something that you could let your kids listen to, that you didn't
Right.
have to sneak and listen to because
Right.
it's like,
Right.
they're saying some really horrible stuff, but it's
Right.
so
Right.
entertaining. Could we bring the cultural and the content aspect of it up to
Mhm.
par and
Mhm.
really do that? Because I was proud to see that they can do it.
Yeah.
Not so proud of the content per
Yeah.
se, but still, I felt a sense of empowerment. And it's unfortunate that you've got these mixed signals coming
Yeah.
from something that's just, it's problematic
Well,
in all its forms.
I know there are two legendary MCs who happen to be women who were masters at battling. One is Medusa out on LA and on the West Coast, who most guys they don't even want to try to battle her
Love it.
because she reminds me of like a female KRS One. Like that's how much command she has of
Oh,
her voice in the
okay.
audience. And Medusa is just all of that. She's everything. But then there's Pre, the Honey Dark, and
Hmm.
Pre who won. I remember when Pre won the Blaze battle
Oh,
way
okay.
back, and she's just a phenomenal lyricist and artist. And so I think throughout hip hop, at least since the 90s, like there have been female MCs who could kill in the battle. And then there have been some young female MCs who actually trained for battle, like that's what they wanted. And I was a coach. Now I'm not a battle MC. I've only battled in pure self-defense.
Okay.
Or when someone was disrespecting my cipher.
Right, right.
And because I don't like the way I feel, I'm very feminine. And so for me, a war is a war and a fight is a fight. This is not for fun. So
Hmm.
I can't fight for fun. I think some people can. I can't. And then I feel bad if I crush someone or say something hurtful. I feel like I'm too soft. Like I feel guilty. Like did
If
I
you
hurt his
destroy other
feelings?
MCs, like
Did I hurt
whole
his
technique.
feelings? And so I just gave that up. But then there's the other space where in the cipher workshop, one of the ground rules I have is no, you can't disrespect women. So
Right,
people think it's a no cursing rule. It's not a no cursing rule because I believe in the poetic license of language and it can be
right,
used very powerfully. But the disrespect of women is not allowed. So no
right.
bees and no hooks. You can't
Hmm.
say these things. But then the other main rule is no battling. But it's not in the idea that it's against the battle. It's the idea that you should prepare yourself for battle and earn the right to be in a battle. And
Right.
so you battle yourself because you are your own worst enemy. And
Nice.
when you've mastered your technique and your form and you have mastery over self, it is
Hmm.
then that you are permitted to battle. I just don't think that somebody who picks up a mic today should be able to be in a battle tomorrow.
Right.
I think it disrespects the craft, the tradition, and the art form.
Well, let me also put something else out there that I noticed about these battles. And it was particularly only when women were involved or when women were battling men.
Mm-hmm.
And men were battling, it's like it's literally, I had no interest in it. Sometimes it would devolve into an actual fight.
Yeah.
It was just weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I would always notice that after, like, you'd see somebody say something that was particularly like terrible.
Yes.
Like, cut your head. I can't rhyme, right?
Yes.
So, I'll cut your kid's head off and throw it down a mountain.
Right.
Pretend that rhymed.
Yeah.
And then people would be like, oh, like if it was really, really
Yeah.
great. And you'd see the other MC like laugh or be like, give
Yeah.
him a pound or something. Or after the thing, they'd hug each other
Mm-hmm.
where okay, it was like this show,
Yes.
you know. Or if somebody particularly zinged somebody,
Mm-hmm.
they'd be
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, okay, you got me.
Yeah.
And so to me, that was really it was
Mm-hmm.
beautiful
Mm-hmm.
because as ignorant as some of the stuff that, that was coming
Right.
out of their
Right.
mouths,
Yeah.
it still felt like some sort of African
It's
exchange.
a sport. It's part of the sport. It's like
But
it's a tradition.
it
Uh,
felt like,
yeah.
like if you're with your cousins and you're playing a dozen, but somebody
Yeah.
gets
Yeah.
somebody and it's really
Yeah.
good. And that to me was important because it
Mhm.
said, they understood it was a sport. You
Mhm.
came with your A
Mhm.
game or you didn't come at all. But, I just wish we could, bring it to the level,
Mhm.
that you're doing it where there's
Mhm.
also some teaching involved. There's some
Mhm.
inspiration involved. And it's not like
Right.
who can I tear down the fastest,
Right.
You know what I find interesting because I'm well past I'm a certain age that enjoys specific kinds of cultural
I
formats.
know you be freestyling, Byron. Don't
Yeah,
play.
right. But what I'm most encouraged by is the rhythm.
Yep.
Okay, it
Yes.
always comes back to the rhythm. No matter what the language is being used, the rhythm speaks certain volumes that allows me to really enjoy it.
Mhm.
Not that I understand all of it, but I
Mhm.
do understand the rhythm, the
Mhm.
technique, the design of a
Mhm.
specific use of the drum, the use of the bass, the line that's
Mhm.
created, and
Mhm.
then when you add on top of that the language itself, that's the music. And
Right.
I like that. That's when I'm engaged
Right.
because I didn't understand the intricacies of it.
Right. Right.
All right. Well, folks, I know you're like, Iyanna, would you shut up so we can hear Tony freestyle? So we're going to do that in just a second. We're going to take a quick break. You're tuned into This is Iyanna Jones on the GoPro Radio Network, goproradio.com, and we will be right back.
Ouais, mais ce politicien. Eh bien, dis-moi, pourquoi le pouvoir change les hommes si facilement? Ouais, disons pourquoi une fois élu, il n'agit pas autrement. Ouais, Digitasia, gagné donc, il a la demande. Digativo no palacio, il donc, il a le noir. Tuhandonia, dina, tout, yegolo. Hasta
Am I in a prison of cynicism? Is it me? Somebody call the police. My hope got stolen. Straight thievery. The skies are crying. The earth on its knees. Please, dear God, make the correction see. What happened to the humane? All we see is the beast. Send a letter of cease and desist. Too many people down while trying to resist. Where's the beat? We don't have a beat?
No.
You
Our hearts are beating in rhythm with Toni Blackman.
don't have a beatbox?
I know how to
Okay.
beatbox. Do you want me to beatbox for you?
Yeah, yeah.
Seriously? Okay, here we go. Don't laugh, everybody.
Okay.
This is Iyanna Jones beatboxing for Toni Blackman. Here we go.
Nice. Here we go. Yes. With IJ. It's Tony Bay. Uh, so check this. Came to the city of Jersey so I could just kind of hurt thee. No, I keep it soft and nice. Telling you right now, said we gonna do it twice, maybe 3 times. A lady like I be, as I'm on the microphones, being an MC, rap lyricist, not a purist. But I invite you to do this, experience this. This for your pleasure and understand, bring your conviction. I'm telling you right now, check the diction, the lyrics and the words. Peep all the nouns and verbs. I said I don't know what I'm saying, but still I'm not playing. But the lyrics I'm displaying said the rhymes I am spraying. What? I have this mint in my mouth. I gotta slow down. Let me take it out. Brought my boy Munir with the horn. He plays the trumpet since the day he was born. What? I said I got jazz sitting next to me. Right here, y'all don't know. This is history. What? I said the styles be free. With that the Go Radio C, what GoPro Radio Network, we flow up here on the Iyanna Jones Show. Oh.
Oh, see, it's the rhythm. I'm telling you, it's the rhythm,
I was
and I
like,
really
oh.
appreciate that. Thank
I was
you.
like, yeah, I could beatbox. Wait, how long do I have to do
Right.
this?
But see
You
that.
are fierce, sis. You're fierce.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
Thank you,
fierce.
thank you, thank you.
That was great.
I am not worthy.
Me
I'm
neither. Me
serious.
neither.
It's
But
just,
I
hey.
really feel good because, typically it's like, how often do you have the women backing up the women? You know what I'm saying? I was going to start beating on the desk. So I tell you what, when we do that one, we'll do some beating on the desk. You can help me out with that, right?
Munir's my trumpet player and a music producer and composer,
Okay.
and yeah.
And shout out to Munir who's in the studio with us. Say what's up to the
Good
audience,
evening,
Munir.
everyone.
He's been
All
sitting
right.
here
Yes,
quietly
he
observing.
has.
At
Very
this point,
ready.
folks know to just jump in and interrupt me because I will go. In addition to being a freestyle, you're also an author.
Yes.
And you've written a book already called
Mhm.
Inner Course.
Mhm.
And tell us a little bit about what that book's about. And then I understand that you have another book that's in the works called Travels of a Lyrical Ambassador, a memoir. It's going to
That
be
book,
published
Inner
later.
Course, is a collection of poetry and inspirational prose. The title piece is I Hate Valentine's Day, which was the original title, and it was published on Villard Random House, a major publisher.
Nice.
And it was my first book, and it was the realization of a dream. It was the reason why I left DC to move to New York. I had a list of things to do, and that kind of happened the first year I got here, and then things went slow after that. And so I had to really learn a lot about the business and realize the art is a business and you've got to know the business. You can't avoid it or run from it, which is
Right.
something I tell young artists all the time.
Right.
Don't try to hide it and don't think a manager is going to do it all for you. You've got to know yourself. And so I learned a few things the hard way with that book.
Yeah, I hear
And
you.
now I'm ready for the next one, Travels of a Lyrical Ambassador, which is a sort of a memoir. It's an excerpt of a piece of my life in terms of my life with hip hop, sort of a global brown sugar in text, but from perspective of a female MC.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's beautiful, and people call folks who have many different talents or who are involved in many different things Renaissance artists.
Hmm.
I can't think of a time in history when we needed a Renaissance more.
Right,
I mean,
yeah.
we need a revolution, there's no
Hmm.
doubt about that,
Yes,
but we
yes,
really
yes.
need a Renaissance too.
Hmm.
And I think that they're two different things.
Yes.
A lot of times people, particularly people who are, socially active,
Yes.
or, involved in social movements for social change, you know, think that, as long as you're saying the right things, that's fine,
Right.
but it's difficult to broach the subject of, okay, we're in a playing field now, right now, where media, as is said in the opening line of the documentary Disappearing Voices, The Decline of Black Radio,
Hmm.
media is the most powerful entity on earth because it controls the minds of the masses of people. So that means if you can get in front of people and you can get in front of people often enough,
Hmm.
you can influence the way they think about things,
Right.
and so when we have a chance to get a stage, are we excellent?
Hmm.
You know, are we providing content in a way that is engaging, that makes people want to turn away from those who
Hmm.
kind of have an advantage in terms of having a TV everywhere, having, television and radio stations that are broadcasting across the world, let alone the country.
Hmm.
So you have, entities like GoPro Radio that are doing their thing. It's imperative for us to be excellent. It's imperative for us to have excellent guests on the shows,
Right.
and to talk about topics that are, really mind changing.
Hmm.
Because otherwise, how can we possibly compete with the mind poison that's out there right now?
Right.
You know.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know. What do you think about
No,
that?
I'm just like,
And that was my
I'm
question.
like, she said that.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, and it's one of the reasons why I do the work is it's like, and it keeps me going, is that if it's the idea if we don't have something competitive to offer, then it's like we just throwing in the towel and we may as well just throw the white flag up. I surrender, kill us all off, let us all fade into the clouds and we'll be erased and extinct. And it's been very important to me to use hip hop and performance as just the idea of being excellent at the craft, I think is very powerful. And then I also have been promoting this idea. I had a talk with an artist friend of mine by the name of Masuko, and we had this conversation about redefining success.
Right.
What does success really mean in this day and age? What does it look like for you and what does it feel like? And I've always been an advocate of artists being artists regardless of whether or not they have a record deal or distribution deal.
Yes.
In the same way that people play basketball for
Hmm.
years,
Hmm.
play chess because they love to play chess, or they bake cookies or have spades tournaments, why can't you have a cipher at your house with your friends?
Yeah.
Why
Abby
can't you,
O'Doon
why
does it
can't
every
you,
Saturday.
yeah, why can't your kids be in the cipher with you? So that is
Hmm.
that's one of the things that I preach a lot. Like when we let go of our art, we're letting go a part of ourself and our souls. And if we don't fill the void, it's going to be very difficult for us to generate creative solutions to the problems that plague our community. And one of the things that frustrates me most is when I hear people of African descent around the world saying, yeah, like we need more rappers and poets. Like we need more musicians. We need to have scientists and engineers. Why can't the scientist write a poem? Why can't the engineer make a hip
Teach.
hop album? It's like the gift of our people was to manifest our creativity. That's why the music around the world that is most prevalent and the most pervasive is ours from this here soil here. From our suffering and our pain, we were blessed with a gift.
Yep.
And it comes from, part of it comes from Africa. And so this African music, the rhythm and the drums, if we erase that from our existence,
We will
then not
cease to
only do
exist.
we cease to exist, the rest of the world does
Exactly.
because
Absolutely.
we feed the soul that the world needs. And I wrote a blog post on it. I didn't post it because it would be a little controversy and I didn't have a little time to respond. But this is, I mean, it really pisses me off. Like,
Yeah.
Tony,
what are
I'm
you
feeling you.
saying?
You're absolutely right. And that's the one thing in our community we need to begin to be very conscious about protecting, preserving is our art and our culture. Without it, we are
Yes,
rootless.
yes.
Well, guess what? We have another caller on the line, so let's
Love
bring
it.
him into the conversation. Hi, you're live on This is Iyanna Jones.
How you doing? My name is Phil. It's a wonderful show, fantastic show.
Thanks,
What's up,
Phil.
Tony?
Hi.
I think you guys are doing a terrific job representing hip hop, but I want to know what you guys feeling is on, let's say like rappers and so forth, like Rick Ross, and and really not just him. I don't want to just single him out, but you know what I'm talking. People who have that kind of vibe, being more prevalent and more prominent in the world of hip hop right now, as opposed to let's say even Toni Blackman, because I just heard her, blow. I'm like, well, why isn't she number one? Why isn't she, the top, artist, female or male, just somebody that's out there that's, doing something that's hard hitting like she is. And I'll just get off the air and I'll listen to you guys answer, to that question.
All right. Well, thank you, caller. Tony?
Well, you know what? It's like it's a regular question, so I'm not surprised by it. But it brings back the idea of, okay, so how do we strategically infiltrate the system that has been created to keep us outside of it? And I think you can look to artists like Chuck D, who've maintained consistency, KRS One, who's not considered mainstream anymore. Like at one point he was penetrating and then is not. But if you take a kid to a KRS-One show, guess what they do? They stand there with their mouths wide open the entire time. And so I think it's important, one, generationally, that the people who get older in hip hop don't put the mic down just because they're older. Now, those who get corny and who lose the craft and who lose their connection to the heart of it, yeah, you put the mic down. But I don't think you should just put it down because the clock rings 35 or 40, right?
Right.
So it's important. And I also think it's important to redefine what success is. I know hundreds of MCs who are hip hop educators around the world who are penetrating in the classrooms. The important thing is for them to maintain excellence in their craft,
Mm.
that they're not waiting for a feature on a main stage concert or to be on the Rock the Bells tour in order to be great. That your greatness exists for this room filled with 11-year-olds.
Right.
And your greatness exists for these seniors at this high school because you can change lives with a great song, whether 1,000 people hear it or 100,000 people hear it. And I think that's really important. I think also we have to be very careful of giving too much energy to complaining about what's wrong with hip hop and not enough energy to supporting what's right. And so the revolution starts with us identifying how can we identify and support artists we actually like. So how can you promote? Can you find 10 artists on the internet that you like and share them with 20 of your friends?
I'll tell you right now, we have to give a shout out to some young MCs who graced us with their presence just recently.
Yes.
Meatloaf Music, who are doing
Oh,
music that sounds like what was out back in the early 90s. Really fantastic. And these are teenagers.
yes.
So they get it. Shout out to Wise Intelligent, who was here just a couple of weeks ago, who,
Mm-hmm.
we also made freestyle and
Right,
rhyme.
right.
and who is just amazing. And
Yes.
shout out to Toni Blackman. And also, I just really need to say this. I hear what you're saying, but Rick Ross, you suck. Okay, so listen, we have 6 minutes to the show. So what I want to do, I mean, he really sucks. And I need to say this real quick because I was freaking out about this. I'm like, does anybody not see this? The whole rape song. We need to stop talking about it. Not because I think it's okay for that song to exist, but we all know that that song was made just so that there could be controversy and there could be some huge women's movement and he can get attention. He's a horrible, horrible person. He's a fraud. He's obviously a rat. He was a corrections officer. And by the way, I don't trust cops. So I have to say, whether you're outside or you're a corrections officer, nobody trusts that. But that's not the only reason why he sucks. That's why he doesn't have credibility. But he also is a horrible rapper. His songs have no content. He needs to get on an exercise program and save his life. He's unhealthy. Okay, in addition to being unhealthy for people to listen to. And that is all I'm going to say about Rick Ross. Non-boss, we have 5 minutes left to go, and this is Iyanna Jones, so I want to make sure I keep in some time for Toni to freestyle again. I'm going to do the beat on the table, but I want to let folks know that they need to tune in next week. They are cracking up in here. Bad. His whole thing should be bad instead of that boss thing. Michaela Angela Davis is going to be my guest next week. She's an image activist,
Michaela.
fashion expert, and writer and actor herself. So she's going to be in talking to us about powerful
And my
stuff.
show, I'm performing at the Apollo Friday night. I'm doing a concert
Awesome.
at 9 p.m. at the legendary Apollo on 125th Street. So to be a part of the Apollo Music Cafe, curated by Lisa Yancey, and she does a really great job of just supporting talent and putting artists of color on the stage and pushing the music and bringing it to audiences.
It's one of the best things Apollo has done recently is to create that cafe.
Apollo Music Cafe, yeah.
So where can people go to get more information about you? What's the website? What's the Facebook? What's the Twitter?
Oh, well, Facebook, I'm Toni Blackman, Toni, Blackman, and I believe it's Miss Blackman 1 is the address page. I should know these things. And
I
then
don't know my Twitter either.
Twitter is at Toni Blackman, Toni, Blackman. You can catch me there. I have a SoundCloud. I'm all connected. And so if you put in the Toni Blackman, if you go on my Twitter and if you want to reach me, you can hit me up on Twitter at Toni Blackman with ease.
All right, everybody make sure you do that. All right, and don't forget, pick up your copy of Disappearing Voices, The Decline of Black Radio, the sponsor of tonight's show, www.disappearingvoices.com. We have 3 whole minutes for Freestyle Heaven.
Yeah.
Okay, let me get my beat together. You want to help me? You want to help do a beat on the table?
You the
All right.
musicians.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. All right.
What kind of beat do you want?
Not too fast. I'm from Cali. So.
Uh-oh.
Here we go. Yeah. Check it, I be the girl from the West Coast. I brag, but I will never ever boast. I stay on the humble. I said I've been to the Congo like the rumble in the jungle. I said I'm not Muhammad Ali, but I still will sting you just like me. So don't get too close to me because I fight for my ancestry. Check my pores, feel the divinity. I don't deal with reality. Said I live in dream state. I never mistake. I understand what it means to carry weight. It's not what you heard before. It's about what I did when I came through the door. What? 90 seconds coming through the end. I don't know what's gonna happen then. Ain't no record to spin. So I let the rhymes and the lyrics flow from my throat. I'm sitting here as I start to go. What? Let me shift in my situation in my chair. I said I'm stuttering. The spit is kind of coming up there because I was not sure I was prepared. So I'm freestyling. Yes, right there, unprepared, unrehearsed. Check this here verse. Well, what's worse? I'm on the radio, so I can't curse. What?
60 seconds.
I'm rhyming like this. 1 minute left. Yes, we going to kiss it like this. I said I formulate my lips to let the lyrics start to slip as I try to take a dip into the waters. And I go deep because I like to ride and low rider. See, I likes to creep. What? From the Cali, yes, from the Bay. The name is Toni Blackman and I came to Jersey just for me to say. Said I love this thing. I said Black Radio said you make me sing. We not dying. We might be crying, but stay alive. Yes, we gonna be trying. What? With wings on our back, we gon' be flying like the angels up in the air. Act like you care. Raise your hand, give me a pound. What? Oh, yes, we on the underground. What? Don't hold back, yes, with your sound. Even if you find your head going round, stand up
10
straight.
seconds.
Hold your head up high. And don't you ever try to deny. Tell the truth, don't lie. Sin and don't you cry. Understand, y'all. Bye-bye.
Go Tony! Go Tony! Go Tony! Go
Yes.
Tony! All right, this is Iyanna Jones. Thank you for tuning in. Tune in next week. We'll be back. Peace.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
Wow. Wow.
Awesome.
Nah, I know you were just trying to tune it up.
You are amazing. You are amazing.